tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Joe, former Sergeant U.S. Army. Was an infantryman and a squad designated marksman.
And some of your duties were?
Maintaining overwatch for infantry units as our squads moved about, conducting operations, whether ground-based or urban-based.
And that was in what areas?
Iraq, Afghanistan, and Central America.
And you've served in other countries as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. After Iraq and Afghanistan, you also did work in the weapons industry?
Yes, I was one of the testers at a proving ground.
And what type of weapons, if you'd like to say, did you work on or experience, have any knowledge of?
Automated targetry systems, automated gun platforms, manned gun platforms, hand-carried, vehicle-mounted, anti-armor, anti-aircraft, and anti-personnel.
And you've seen some alternative craft developed by our military?
Yes.
What would you say, can you identify any of them by designation, title, name, what have you?
I've seen the Stealth Blackhawk. I've seen the TR-3 and variants of cargo aircraft that haven't been released to public.
And do any of these have alternative kind of drives to them?
All of them have the capabilities of traveling silently and changing directions at high speed.
So that they could be sometimes mistaken for what we call UFOs?
Oh, absolutely.
And that happens?
Absolutely.
Okay. And those are tested at military bases even near where we're speaking today?
Yes, they're tested all over the country, in cities, outside of cities. The feedback that people give whenever they see these craft are intelligible data that we can use to determine whether the stealth capabilities are where they need to be or whether there's things that need to be worked on.
So if I understand what you're saying, UFO sightings, when people report them and the type of information, this is utilized to help further the development of these alternative craft.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. And you're familiar with, a lot of people are talking about the so-called Jade Helm military exercises. What could you say about that based on your own knowledge of military operations?
Jade Helm is a training event that has been hosted for multiple cities over multiple regions and done for probably somewhere around 25, maybe even 35 years, way before I came into the military. People need to accept that there is a panel of men, and mostly men, that sit around and just think of ways to dominate or take over the world. They run scenarios. They plan the nightmare scenarios. They plan for every single contingency that their crazy brains can come up with. Alien attack, food shortage, mass disease. All of these things has to be planned and prepared for because there has to be an SOP in place in case of an event happening. So when people get freaked out thinking the government's going to take over, your government has already planned on annihilating you off the planet 10 times or 40 times over. They have a million ways that they can kill you that they've already thought about, they've already wrote down, there's already in a manual somewhere. There is no enemy on the planet that we have not figured out a way to defeat or dominate. That is what happens when you're a superpower. You have to figure out how to stay in power or how to maintain the power that you have, and that's pretty much all that Jade Helm is. It's just preparing your military. You don't want to send your soldiers into battle without knowing how to operate their weapon, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're making sure that our soldiers are capable and ready to handle any contingency that might arise.
So there are weapons existing and technologies available to the military and or soldiers that we don't even know anything about.
Let's go back to the 70s. The U.S. government was probably 10 years ahead of you. Let's go back to the 40s. The U.S. government was pretty much parallel with the technology that was available to the general public. Let's fast forward a bit to the 80s. The U.S. government was about 100 years ahead of whatever it is you've got. So just imagine what they have now. the toys that the military's black budget and the world military industrial complex have to play and what they have at their disposal will never be privy to the common citizen. Well, it's only privy to a very select few in certain special operations communities and in research and development, because these are the things that the military has to have in order to keep not just the planet safe, but the species progressing forward.
So they view it as a positive that they're trying to protect themselves, the government, the country, what have you, or is it a little more sinister than that, or not?
Sinister would be a weird word to say about it. Are our days on this planet numbered? Yes. Does our government know that? Yes. Are we planning for what we're going to do in order to survive that? Yes. Is this something that might come to fold in the next 100 years? Very much so. Large pockets of this planet are going to become absolutely uninhabitable as climate change shifts. We are going into a period that we've even planned about. We were going into a period that we've designed equipment around to deal with. We had a polar shift just recently. People didn't even know that. Yeah, we had a polar shift. All of our equipment was designed to deal with that. Our navcons, our navigation systems, everything was designed to deal with that. The small little bit of information about that incident that got out to the public became conspiracies. All the information that ever gets out to the public becomes conspiracies. But the real big conspiracy is we are going to leave this planet. And you have a group of men, not just men, but you have an industrial complex that is preparing and getting ready for that. And they're gearing not just the US citizen, but the world citizen, the people of the world, they're gearing them for a technological shift, an advance, a social shift, and a social advance that's going to take this species beyond the stars, where it needs to be.
And what do you think in terms of the kind of polarization that some people say is happening racially, culturally, politically? Is that, in your opinion, is that real? Is it, if so, is it deliberate? Is it accidental? What would you say about it?
I would say that there is a rich controlling group out there that wants to seize up property, so when they come in and they create racial instability, and their media groups that they own and they control sensationalize certain things, yes, naturally, ethnic groups get upset, they get riled up, but guess what? That property that they're sitting on also becomes less valuable, giving other people the opportunity to snatch it up at low-cost price and cause what's known as urban renewal.
You once mentioned something about Katrina. What could you tell us about that and how that might have played into this?
The levees in Katrina were more than adequate to hold back the floodwaters. There was only 2 breaks, and the pump systems were completely adequate to pump the water back out. So, from my knowledge, having been there firsthand on the ground, right when the hurricane, right after the hurricane happened, and clearing out the convention center, I could tell you that only 2 pump stations were running out of 24. I could tell you that Army Corps of Engineers was on the ground, and the types of breaks that happened within the levee would only have happened through explosive means.
So you think some of that was deliberately blown?
I believe that was deliberately flooded.
And the people were then relocated?
Oh yeah, they were relocated. FEMA paid them to relocate to different cities. We dropped them off in St. Louis, we dropped them off in different places of Louisiana, we dropped them off in different places of Georgia, Arkansas, Texas. The downtrodden and the poor that stayed behind, which that's mostly who stayed behind, they were relocated. They were given new lives. Your tax dollars paid for that. But now the 9th Ward, areas of New Orleans that were completely destroyed are becoming condos, beachfront properties.
Economic advantage for somebody.
Economic advantage, but urban renewal is the word.
Euphemism, one way or the other. Your experiences, you've had some experiences in terms of your service. Can you tell us a little more about what branch of service, what type of things you indeed did see, participate in, had expertise in, whatever you're comfortable saying about it?
My time in the Army was spent as a marksman and infantryman, and during my time, I have had multiple occasions where I was told that the things that I had just seen did not exist. During the invasion, I had multiple times where I guarded things that didn't exist. I guarded areas that were not on the map and were not part of the operation. we were deviated multiple times to handle what's known as fragos, or fragmentary orders, to secure areas that didn't exist. We were told that white trucks that we saw loaded with crates did not exist. We protected multiple archaeological sites and loaded things into trucks. Well, no, not me personally, but guarded while things were loaded into trucks and told that that did not exist. So a lot of times in the Army I was told that I didn't see things and that they weren't there and that I was never there. Where those places were, where those things were spread all out throughout Iraq and Afghanistan. The guise that we went for weapons of mass destruction was never any part of a mission that I served on. The guise that we were there for the building and stabilization of a fledgling democracy, which was the statement that we were told to give to CNN whenever interviewed or stopped by a reporter, was never any part of any mission that I was ever a part of. Never once did I help out build a school, secure a voting path. These were missions that were delegated down to reserve units and National Guard, whereas the active duty, did we fight an insurgency? Yes, we continued to fight an insurgency on a daily basis. We also did things that further destabilized the political and socio and democratic process. So in the same sense that we had the reserves helping the democratic process, we were even further destabilizing it by taking out key leaders of groups that were trying to talk with each other. But that's about all I got to say on that.
All right. And you saw technologies in use in Iraq and Afghanistan, perhaps, that have to do with controlling people even in this country. Would that be an accurate way of putting it, or not?
I would say that we have some weapons, electronic warfare weapons, that when used in the right ways can make large groups of people do things that you want them to do, as far as becoming passive. We have electronic warfare weapons that when used in the wrong ways can make people's heads explode. We have electronic warfare weapons that can completely destroy the genetic makeup of a populace. And have I seen those used? Yes.
And you've seen technologies for identifying and locating people, less invasive in a sense physically, but to be used for controlling in terms of identifying people, where they are, where they've been, etc., screens and things.
The Nazis put numbers on people in order to classify them and track them as they brought them into their internment camps, which concentration camps. We, instead of building camps, created an entire matrix of biological data, from the genome, mapping everybody genetically, to retinal scans, face biometrics. And this is technology that wasn't just used in the battlefield. This is technology that came to the battlefield from being used against the American populace. It's a fact on an average day your picture's taken over 100 times. It's a fact that the NSA can look at your camera on your phone. It's a fact that they can use your phone and multiple phones in the area to gather information and be able to matrix the location of a person. There is nowhere on the planet you can hide unless you go to a jungle or a desert somewhere far off, away from all of this digital infrastructure. You stay next to any Western civilized nation, stay in any Western civilized country, you can be found, tracked and traced, down to having a personality profile that can predict what your movements are.
Just to confirm, this video is being made with your permission?
Yeah.
And are you all right with this being made freely available to the people online?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What concerns might you have for our society, for people, for yourself, your family, anybody, based on what you know from your experience?
if you don't think that every little bit of instability that's going around right now, your racial tension, your economic oppression, your dissuasion in the media to blind you to what candidates actually are and what issues actually are, as well as these backdoor things that we only get as blurbs on the news when somebody signs a treaty or signs an agreement. If you don't think that there's a plan behind all of it, the American people are just fucking stupid. And that's the fact. The cold hard fact is the American people are stupid. And they're not just stupid because they don't pay attention. They're stupid because the government wants them to be stupid. The government has orchestrated an education system that's doomed to fail. They've orchestrated a financial system that's doomed to fail. They've orchestrated, over the years, through the use of media, they've pushed ideals onto you that you think are called the American dream. These are all things to tie you into becoming a corporate entity and, again, being put back into slavery. That's all that this is about. You do not live in a society. This is not a free market society. Not every single person can make it. Not everybody can follow their dreams. The thing about America is that it's an illusion. You are living in an illusion. It's a lie orchestrated through very, very rich people that have had money long before this country was ever founded, families that have had money that was long before this country was ever founded. In fact, what if this country was founded on the principle of stopping rebellion by making a rebellion? Let's see what had happened in France. France had had an overthrow where the people were done with being poor, and they killed the aristocrats. Don't you think that the controlling interests that founded this country might have already had that in mind? Might have already set in motion an independent country, an independent puppet that can be used as a bulldog, that can be used as a scapegoat. What has America become? Everything is part of the fruition of a plan that was set in motion long before any of us were here on this ground, long before we took it from the Native Americans, long before a constitution was written, which is, again, just another lie and a document that signs your ass away to a corporated country. This is an incorporated country. This is a corporation. It's ruled by corporations. It's ruled by a rich and elite powering group that see a big picture. They don't care about what happens in their lives. All they care about is that the corporation stays strong, their family power stays strong, and these are things that continue throughout history. These are things that have continued since the dawn of time. They've controlled you through information. They've controlled you by telling you where you came from, by telling you what the origin of the species was. If you don't think that we've been playing this out generation after generation after generation after generation, we were walking next to dinosaurs while this shit was still going on. This is just the way that we roll it. That's the planet in a nutshell, and that's what people need to realize.
What hope do you personally hold out for people to take back their own power, if any?
We're a species that's continually evolving, and only once we've seen and we've gone through a couple of cycles of this crap that we're in right now will we come together as a species. And that is my hope, is that we actually come together as a species instead of seeing each other as black, brown, white, Hispanic, Native American, Middle Eastern, Aborigine. Instead of seeing ourselves as separated into races which don't even actually exist, they're just evolutionary adaptations to your environment. Because of those things, we're separated. My hope for the people is that we unite as a species, because that's what will carry us from not only here, but further on in our evolution. These bodies that we have, they're just meat suits. The brain, the energy that's encased inside there, the energy matrix that makes me, the multiple firings of neurons and dendrites that makes me, is something that isn't inherent just to this body. This is a matrix that you can find looking into the stars. There's a global consciousness, not just a global consciousness, there is a universal consciousness that we all have to become a part of and that we all have to get back to. We can shed these bodies, we can shed this planet, we can shed time, we can shed space, we can shed dimensionality, and we can truly become free beings.
And just to wrap it, unless of course there's nothing to say, you served how many tours of duty, and were you were a ranger, an army ranger, anything? You brief us a little on that?
I did 6 tours of duty in combat, and a couple of tours that was considered TDY in multiple places where there were conflict. I was an infantryman and ranger qualified, sniper qualified, and a combat engineer, demolition qualified.
What is TDY for those that don't know?
It's a temporary duty assignment, not lasting longer than 90 days.
And you mentioned once that you had a clearance when you worked in an area of the military base that was above top secret, or what's the proper designation?
I held an above top secret security clearance, which is considered what's known as higher than SCL, or higher than secret clearance, meaning that a lot of the things that I saw and a lot of the things that I reported and a lot of the things that I was exposed to were things that the president might not ever be privy to.
And then you eventually left that function?
Yes, I left the military and I became a PMC. I went to work for a couple of PMCs. I worked for Triple Canopy, I worked for XL Securities and Triple Canopy Securities.
And so you also have a wide range of experience and knowledge in technologies and corporate structuring and a bunch of other things like that.
Corporate weaponry, PMC weaponry, and PMC technologies are not on par with the military, but weaponry-wise, firearm-wise, it's just as equal, if not equivalent, to any military on the planet. Doing executive security from one nation to another nation is something that is not bound by the constrictions of government or government sanctions, giving the men on the ground pretty much carte blanche to accomplish missions. And having corporate backing behind you gives you almost unlimited resources. Not so much so as like the air support that you would get from the military, but as far as having your on-ground assets, you're totally well above par of any enemy.
And PMC stands for what?
Private Military Corporation.
So you're familiar with different things, Blackwater type of operations and the rest of it?
Yes, I work for the company that Blackwater turned into.
Is there anything else you'd like people to know about either your life, your experience, your thoughts, what you...
As I get closer and closer to a period that I'm probably not going to be on this planet, the amount of things that I was exposed to, the amount of things that I saw, and the amount of things that I did have unfortunately compromised my health in a way that I will not be able to recover from. I've fought off lung cancer, and I'm currently struggling with a node in my brain that will probably kill me within 5-7 years at the most. So the one thing that I want everybody to understand is that whereas me, I would love for there to be aliens out there, the conspiracies that spread around where we've contacted alien life, where we've captured alien technology, you don't have to look to the stars to see wonders. We, as human beings, have already mastered the atom. It's only going to be a matter of time before we master time and space, which is something that we as a species have probably already done many times over. We are the aliens on this planet. Look around you. Look around the world. See that the only thing that has the capability of altering its environment, the only thing that has the capability of doing damage and harm to itself in the capacity that we have is us. We are the aliens on this planet. This is not our planet. That's it.
So any truth to the matter that there's alien treaties with our government and aliens are walking around carrying their lunch trays at Dulce and Area 51 and all that stuff?
Dulce Archuleta is just a rock Archuleta. That's all it is. There's nothing more there. Area 51 is a high-altitude advanced research base for testing advanced aircraft. White Sands, New Mexico is a missile testing range, and a place that's safe to blow stuff up outside of civilian populaces and also not on a fault line. multiple things across this planet and multiple sites across this planet hold even more regard than scientifically and historically to the human species than thinking that there are little green men that have come down and are abducting you in the middle of the night. It's not unheard of for the Rangers to pump gas into your house in the middle of the night and then sneak into your house very quietly after sneaking through your neighborhood very quietly and then abducting you from your room. Not conducting medical experiments on you, but categorizing your ass, getting every single detail we can, taking all the prints off your body we can, taking as many samples as we can, your blood, your bones, your DNA, your retinal scan, your face scan, and then plopping you right back in your house, and you waking up with only a headache and never having known we were there with a vague memory just as if you went to the dentist to have your wisdom tooth extracted. There are no aliens. There are no secret treaties. There is no alien technology. There is only us. And by us, I mean the US.